Yo, welcome to the Left Fresh Podcast. Happy Wednesday. Middle of the week. Trying to get you over that hump. Good sports conversations. Thank you all for jumping on. Encourage you all to subscribe, like, comment, share, tell a friend, tell a friend. Thank you all for the support I've been getting since the beginning. Um, Good month of sports, March. Everything's kind of coming into fruition. The NBA season starting to wind down. The NFL draft coming up. March Madness is going crazy right now. So yeah, this is a great month right now. It's getting ready to conclude and it's getting ready to pick up even more so in April. Um, Getting ready, giving you coverage from all three, from the NFL, the NBA, the college basketball. It's been a good, like I said, a good ride. Um, Ready to get it jumping in. Let a few people get settled in. Welcome all. Like I said, subscribe, like, comment, tell a friend to tell a friend. Thank you all for jumping on once again. Can't thank you enough. Hope everyone's having a great week, and hopefully the Left Fresh podcast get you over the hump and get you towards the end of the week. I'll be back on Saturday at 9 at around 10 p.m. Do 10 p.m. March Madness is going too crazy right now, so yeah, I'm gonna push the hip hop episode back on Saturdays to 10 p.m. So yeah, 10 p.m. it is. But like I said, I'll let everybody know in advance, give prior notice as well, just to keep reminding me. I'll be out there promoting. Uh, good to everybody have everybody on. Sorry to get my words jumbled up there, but yeah, it's been a pretty interesting course of the week, and so like I said, had good college basketball, had good NBA basketball, good talks going around the league, news going around the NFL as well. Um, can't wait to get into it right now. Let's not delay anymore. I'm going to start off with the NFL, though. Not too much, of course. NFL offseason. The only thing that's really jumping right now is the impending draft in April. You're starting to see a lot of movement around the mock drafts. Different stocks are going up, different stocks going down, depending on what teams are looking for. Offseason and the free agency moves kind of determine which direction teams are going in the draft. Um, I looked around a couple of mock drafts. I always look around a couple of them, and I kind of trust none of them because they're very shifty and they shake up and down every so often. So I mean, I just really look at the mock drafts just to get a gauge of the names and the players of that's probably going to go. Like I said, top 10 picks, top priority picks, and see how that's going to shape out. Trying to guess if teams might trade up or make a move, make any other moves like that, trade up, trade down. But a lot of talent in this draft. I'm pretty impressed with it. One particular area though that everyone looks at and says that it's not a good draft because quarterback position, most important position on the field. Everybody's looking for a quarterback. Teams can't upgrade a quarterback enough. Um, so not seeing too many quarterbacks to pick from leads, you know, this kind of narrative that this draft class isn't very deep. Um, I would say that it's pretty good in some positions. I think the wide receiver draft might be the wide receiver portion of the draft might be pretty good. I think particularly the edge rusher draft. This is pretty much edge rusher type of draft that you would want if and most teams in the league could always use another edge rusher. So I think this draft class has some pretty good edges in this one. And that's kind of what a lot of defenses are looking for. That's what a lot of teams usually need. Like I said, you can't have enough of. So that's kind of like, you know, as far as the defensive side of things, the linebacker position, of course, is the brain of it. The brain of it. I mean, of course, it was great to have a premier shutdown corner or a safety that can ball hawk and everything like that, and play up a hybrid type of safety. But edge rusher is a big difference maker in today's NFL, especially in a league where defenses have caught up. The edge rusher has pretty much become almost paramount. And this particular draft, I like these particular edges that are available. But before I get to the edges, we're gonna look at the quarterback position, and you know, it's pretty much consensus that the Raiders are gonna go with Fernando Mendoza at number one. Um, I do see a lot of pundits and experts and media, you know, saying that he's probably not the best quarterback in the draft. That the Raiders are probably reaching for him. Um, I think he's a solid quarterback. He could be a starter. Not sure if he's a particularly an elite, and that's kind of where the expectation is when you draft a quarterback with the number one pick is a potential elite. So I understand the skepticism, but I mean, yeah, this is not exactly a quarterback draft class. I'm gonna share my screen. And let you all take a look at Fernando Mendoza and kind of show you where the stats register from college. Let's take this down. But yeah, I think Fernando Mendoza is solid quarterback. Not sure if he's, the elite quarterback that everyone is looking for. He threw for 3,500 yards, 41 touchdowns was impressive this past season with the Indiana, you know, with that Indiana team. However, most people are going to give him a lot of flack because he played with a stacked team. Um, like I said, number one may be pretty high for him, but I mean, in a league that's desperate for quarterback, I mean, teams are going to take a chance on him. I will say I don't know if it's a reach because it's too high for him, or because of ability, more so than more so. I mean, I don't think it's intangibles. That's the problem. He has all the intangibles. Fernando Mendoza says everything right. Um, he actually has a little sense of humor to him. I mean, he's just like a podium. He's great at the podium, and that's kind of. But then again, I mean, sometimes people feel he's over the top, or you just get a lot of skepticism. I mean, to me, he's heavily criticized as well. I just don't know if if that's the long term 10 to 15-year answer for the Las Vegas Raiders. I think he's like I said, I think he's pretty good. I don't think he's a bust or anything like that nature. I think I don't know what the answer is. It's going to take a lot for the Raiders to build around him. I know that. I know that team, you know, I hope he has that great attitude going to Las Vegas because he's going to need it. that could drain a lot of morale coming into the NFL. But the other quarterback that's projected to go in the first round is Ty Simpson from Alabama. Now, in this particular case, Ty Simpson, he showed flashes in a in the season that pretty much ended, pretty pretty rough. You know what I mean for Ty Simpson. It was kind of an up and down season for him. But I think a lot of pundits are looking at him a lot because of you know particularly his skill set, like his ability to make reads and process of offense and everything like that, process and make reads and everything. That's kind of what a lot of these scouts and pundits are looking at when it comes to Ty Simpson. They got him projected to go number 16 to the Jets. Um, Good luck to him as well. The only two quarterbacks in this draft are projected to go to teams that are historically been bad with quarterbacks. So I mean, I wish him the utmost. I wish him the best. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like both of them are gonna get drafted in the first round just for strictly desperation. Teams are going to take a chance on a quarterback because you need a quarterback, and even if they aren't the best quarterback, I mean, some of these teams want to just build up a squad around pretty average quarterback. Like I said, teams are looking for the next Sam Darnold story. All right, they seen Seattle pull it off with an average quarterback. They're all thinking the same thing. Hey, listen, there is no elites. There's no next Mahomes in this draft class. There's no way we can get an elite quarterback in free agency. There's no Joe Burrow like quarterback. There's no Josh Allen like quarterback. They're all extended. They're all locked in on big term contracts. So that's not happening. How else are we going to get a quarterback? Like I said, the Sam Darnold story has inspired all the teams, and everything's on the table pretty much. Like, hey, Falcons took a chance on Tua with all the concussions, and I mean, it's not like they have a choice, right? Michael Penix still out. You know, um, Dolphins had to get off of Tua's contract. So I mean, at the end of the day, these teams are making these moves to ultimately just allocate cap room. You know, we don't have an elite out here, so we just want to stack whatever team we can around a quarterback that's good enough to manage a game for us. And that's a good point. Organized chaos. Welcome aboard. Welcome in. Yeah, Bama quarterbacks. Hey, and that's the thing. Is if you're the team is saying, hey, that's enough. You know, we get some running backs, we get some wide receivers. We'll take. That's exactly what teams are saying right now. That's what the desperation is at the QB position. And the desperation at the QB position is why Todd McShay has projected Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame to go up in the draft. Now, Jeremiah Love's a home run hitter type of running back. I mean, do I see the Giants going for another Saquon type story, drafting a running back that high again? I don't think they're going to land with the Giants, but a team that already has a quarterback, or just like somebody's projecting him going to the Cardinals. I'm like, I don't see him going to the Cardinals. I mean, I can see him going to the Cardinals, but not over a lineman. I mean, Cardinals are pretty much starting over. They just moved on from Kyler Murray, and I don't see a quarterback situation out there for them either. Justin Fields went to the Chiefs. Um, I was just thinking about that. That's an interesting case with Arizona. What are they going to do at quarterback? Um, the Jets, like I said, they can still get a quarterback later on in the round. You look at Arvell Reese at Ohio State. Ruben Bain looks like the beast though from Miami. Like the Titans are projected to get him. That's what Todd McShay got. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he does go to the Titans. Yeah, Ruben Bain Jr. is a beast. Like I said, it's some great edge. It's some potential great edge rushers. Potential. Arvell Reese, um, Ruben Bain, and David Bailey at Texas Tech. I'm not even sure if David Bailey even falls that low to number 8. David Bailey might jump up to number 2, depending on how more workouts come out. Texas Tech, yeah, he's an elite. He was an elite edge at Texas Tech. He's probably between Bailey, Arvell Reese, and David Bain, Ruben Bain Jr. Yeah, those are 3 edge rushers right there to keep an eye out for. Sonny Styles, a lot of people are skeptical of him as well. I mean, a lot of people are skeptical of him, but I mean, Ohio State. Thing about Ohio State is like they got one of those teams where decent, pretty good players can kind of mask themselves as great players when they're playing with greater players. You know what I mean? But because I mean, Reese and Sonny Styles, I mean, they both might be pretty good. I mean, they both might end up really good. I mean, but typically in those big powerhouse programs, you usually got a couple of average players that look like potential Hall of Famers in the NFL, and it doesn't translate like that because they're on a great school. They had a great school. Like I said, David Bailey looks like a tough case. I see the Chiefs are eyeing Mansour Delane from LSU, another great corner from there. Caleb Downs, Ohio State. I think he's had some potential red flags about his knees or something. I believe I got to really look into that, but I believe his injury concerns are with Caleb Downs. But he's still a top notch safety. Yeah, he's still a top notch safety. And then the Cardinals drafting Francis Magua. I wouldn't mind the Giants getting a lineman. I would not mind the Giants getting Francis Magua. But yeah, he'll probably be off the board by then. That's a potential elite offensive tackle, and that doesn't come too often. So yeah, yeah, I like this top 10. I mean, despite the quarterback position not being strong in this draft, like the other positions, critical positions, like I said, you got a lineman at the top, you got an elite back, you got receivers, Carnell Tate. You know, yeah, it's a pretty good draft. I mean, I think it was pretty good at the other positions. Oh yeah, yeah, it's definitely deep here. Screen. And then also who not pictured in this one, Kyle Lemon from USC. You look at his stats: 1,100 yards this season, 11 touchdowns. Yeah, Kyle, explosive weapon. He's young. He's pretty young. I mean, I think all team, all American. Yeah, yeah, very young prospect that can come in and I think he can be explosive in his very first year. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the draft plays out. Like I said, quarterback position, not much for you, but plenty of other needs can be met in this draft, a variety of needs depending on the teams. And like I said, I can see a couple trades happening here too. But yeah. And what bothered me, like I said, seeing all these edges, I was reading that and heard that Jerry Jones owner of the Cowboys, was trying to make a trade for Max Crosby. He was offering draft pick, he was offering first rounders and mid rounders, and the Raiders kept turning them down because they wanted 2 first round picks. I was looking at the draft. I was thinking about what the Cowboys traded Michael Parsons to get, and I'm wondering, well, one, why are you trying to trade an edge rusher after trade for an edge rusher after trading your best edge rusher? And secondly, you can actually just draft one with those picks, that you got from Michael Parsons. So I mean, I didn't see the purpose in Jerry Jones, trying to reach out about Max Crosby. You got a boatload of picks, and this draft looks like it's pretty good at edge rusher. So, I mean, go ahead, figure it out, Jerry. I mean, you're a division rival of mine, so I don't care if you do figure it out. But at the same time, it's pretty evident that you can just draft an edge. Yeah, but that's pretty much it on the NFL front. Like I said, there's not too much excitement outside of that. Like I said, you see these mock drafts going up and down. These are the key players I kind of see at the top that can actually. I think there's some difference makers in there at the other positions, but yeah, that's pretty much it for the NFL this type of the discussion. I mean, it's pretty much cut and dry to this point. It's going to just be a debate about which um, edge is probably better than the other, or the order actually. You see those stocks go up and down slightly, and then of course you'll see all the excitement on it on draft day. You'll see what they come out the war room with. But yeah, that's it for the NFL part of it. I'm gonna switch gears, and before I do, I want to encourage you all, if you just jumped on, to subscribe, like, comment, share, tell a friend, and tell a friend. Thank you all for jumping on again. Like I said, it's the Left Fresh podcast on a Wednesday night. Hoping you get over the hump towards the end of the week. It's been a busy week for me already. Like to be at this point right now, but we're gonna switch gears into the NBA. NBA, like I said, coming to an end. It's end of March, going into April. This is about playoff time. You know what I mean? This is when the suspense starts for real. This is not the, tired of the tanking conversations, tired of the complaining about too many threes, tired of complaining about no defense and all that stuff. That's the typical argument. I'm starting to believe some of them. I mean, of course, some don't even watch basketball. They just watch the complain. But a lot of those arguments are regular season arguments. As we get to the playoffs, it starts to pick up, and we can go from there. But before we do that, let's take a look at the East. See the standings. You can see it at the top. You haven't heard the awful news that Cade Cunningham suffered a collapsed lung. He's going to be out for an extended period of time, probably at least a month. Pistons are at 52-19. They just had a win last night against the LA, against the other night against the LA Lakers on Monday night, and right now currently losing to the Hawks. The Hawks are hot right now as well. They've been on a tear. They worked their way into the 6th seed right there, as you see. Um, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they play out. Right now, we're set to be matched up. My Knicks are set to be matched up against the Hawks, and that can be good or bad depending on who's on. But Cavaliers in the 4th spot. They slated to meet the Raptors. You see the Sixers slated to meet the Celtics. Jalen Brown still playing pretty well for the most part. I mean, kind of sliding a little bit. I think they're still finding their legs ever since Jason Tatum came back. He's been kind of struggling a little bit while he gets back in rhythm, but it's pretty understandable. I think Jason Tatum. We understand. Coming back from such a drastic injury like that, that it can happen. Yeah, organized chaos. I posted on my Instagram page as well. The Eastern Conference is definitely balling right now. This has been the first in a long time that you see 10 teams over 500. Yeah, more teams over 500 in the East than in the West. Now, I'm not sounding off any alarms that the East is better than the West. Slow down. I'm not going to say that, but it seems to be a little more depth in the East. I'm not sure the very best team is in the East, but there seems to be more depth in the East. Seems to be a little more competitive in the East, and that's just that's scary for my Knicks because I don't know which Knicks you're going to get in the playoffs. And I mean, I hope that Towns can step up. Jalen. I hope he doesn't have to do too much and run out of gas. He's carried us with some great performances in the playoffs. He's had some great nights, but it's just too much on his shoulders. We need Towns, we need Bridges, we need everybody else because going at I mean, look at the lowest seed team. Like I said, we're slated to face the Hawks right now. They figured it out without Trey. Jalen Johnson, um, Dyson Daniels, and Nikel Walker, and they got wings and size. They don't necessarily have like a center solution, but they definitely got enough wings and just size everywhere. Ever since they traded Trey, they just got a lot taller. And CJ McCollum's a little spark they added as well. You got the Sixers down there with Tyrese Maxey, who's been out for a little bit, and then you got VJ Edgecombe, who's been playing well. Um, yeah, they're slated to play the Celtics. I mean, I think the Celtics can handle that though. And you got Orlando and the Heat and the Hornets. Man. Yeah, it's a tight race at the end. That play-in is going to be an intense one. And let's switch over to the West, where wow, we don't even have 8 teams over 500 anymore. And I'm not saying the mighty has fallen, but yeah, I mean, it's been a while since we've seen, an AFC fighting for 500 in the West. There's usually 10 teams in the West at 500 or more. The Warriors, yeah, they pretty much flickered out without Steph. Um, yeah, I don't even think nobody has to accuse the Warriors of tanking. I mean, the Warriors are just bad. I mean, without Steph, I mean, they're just not sustainable. Steph and Jimmy Butler. That's 2 max contracts sitting on the sideline right there. And you traded away Jonathan Kuminga. It was good on Shaq. We know what the Knicks are capable of. The Knicks know what they're capable of. The off and on, yeah, it's too inconsistent to be sure about, especially going against a lower seeded team riding high off momentum. I mean, I like to remind people the Indiana Pacers were a 6th seed last year. They went to the finals. Yep. Yeah, and it's like I'm watching this in the West. The Spurs and the Thunder, of course, are the 50-win team, the only 50-win teams in the West right now. And then you got the Lakers, who've been on a hot streak. I mean, they just lost their first game on Monday night, and like a 9-game winning streak got busted. They were hot. The Nuggets have kind of climbed back into 4th place. They kind of look like they was going through a dip. The Rockets are still kind of sliding. They definitely need some point guard play. The Suns, they're the Suns are a good team, and they're doing amazingly well. I think everyone expected the worst from them, so it's impressive to see them playing well. They just one of those teams. I mean, over 500, that's impressive though. I mean, Dylan Brooks has made a big difference out there. Jalen Green and Devin Booker. I was kind of worried about how those guards are going to fit, and they actually are making it work. I mean, Dylan, he's already kind of played like the wing position anyway. Jalen as well, and then I guess Booker just kind of fit in at point as well. They had a great game the other night. But yeah, I mean, the Suns are still hanging in there. Some of the East playing teams, yeah, can be scary, exactly. And then I'm looking at the Kawhi still carrying the Clippers to an 8th seed. That's impressive itself that Kawhi's still healthy and doing what he did. And then up to the 5th spot, you see the Timberwolves with Ant-Man. Um, you know, who's Randall and that's an interesting matchup playing the Nuggets. And since I've shown all of that, I'm gonna see all the rest of the bottom of the out teams real quick before I go to the playoff picture. Yeah, these teams are in tank mode or should be in tank mode. I know people talk of the integrity of the game and everything, and it's true. People shouldn't tank, but some teams are just bad. Like I don't think the Kings have to try too hard to tank. Jazz. Ace Bailey's been picking it up lately, people. Yeah, go out there and look at Ace Bailey. If you can find a couple of his games, I know it's hard to catch a Jazz game, but Ace Bailey's had a couple 30-point games. And this is what I always say to people too. Young players, they start picking it up towards the end of the end of the season. Towards the end of the season, you start seeing these scoring bursts. And we talked a lot about this rookie class, and Ace Bailey kind of got lost in the talk and everything. He's kind of have to emerge back in that conversation. He's an effective scorer out there in Utah. So yeah, and the fact that they're losing like this, so they're going to get another pick to go with him. And Jaren Jackson, yeah, Utah's going to figure it out eventually. Then you also got the Mavericks with Cooper Flag. John Morant's out in Memphis. He's out for the rest of the season. Another, I want to say disappointing season. I mean, definitely because he's always cut short by injuries. Zion is playing pretty well, even though the Pelicans are still down at the bottom of the league. He's still playing pretty well though. He's staying pretty healthy, and I think the Pelicans, they can make a turn they could turn into something competitive in a couple of years with their young core. What they're gonna do with Zion remains to be seen. I mean, he's still playing well, but I think if this get his market value up and somebody makes the right offer, I'm pretty sure New Orleans will probably take a trade for him. Looking at the playoff picture, here's how it would shape out right now. If it started today, you will have the Sixers and the Magic in the play in. You will have the Heat and the Hornets in the play in. Um, and the winner of the how that play out, either play the Pistons or the Celtics. Like I said, the Hawks are no longer in playing status. They actually would solidify a spot today. So, and then you look over into the West. You know, you got two under 500 teams at the ninth and 10th spot. I don't think the Blazers or the Warriors get a playoff spot. Yeah, I think the Clippers and Suns, like, yeah, that's where the Warriors are at right now. And I'm not sure if I think Portland will be good next year. Like, this is the NBA is a baby step league. So, the I think Portland will be pretty good next year. They'll be better next year. Denny Abaja. Um, Denny Abaja's pretty good. I see Scoot Henderson kind of making the leap. Donovan Clingan is kind of making that jump. And then, you know, hopefully they get a decent draft pick in the first round. They can actually make something happen. Um, like I said, Nuggets and Timberwolves, that's always an interesting matchup. Ant-Man versus Jokic, that's always an interesting matchup. That series usually goes, with, I think realistically, Jokic and Jamal Murray should be able to get past the Timberwolves this year if they were to play each other in the playoff matchup. Uh, I think Minnesota has decent depth, but I don't think they have enough depth. But at the same time, it comes down to health too, and I'm not sure if Jokic is 100%. Sometimes I mean I feel like he's still putting up great numbers. He's still doing Jokic things, but I'm not sure if he's quite 100%. And it's kind of hard for his conditioning if he's not if he is staying in shape if he's not 100%. And then you got Jamal Murray, who's been playing who's been an All Star this year too. I would give the Nuggets the edge still in that series. Um, Looking at the Lakers and the Rockets, I think the Lakers can win that series. I think the Lakers did a great service putting themselves in the third seed, um, making sure they got home court advantage. They can definitely win a playoff series at this point. Um, I think they kind of figured it out with as far as Luca and getting LeBron to play within the system of deferring to Luca and Austin Reeves as the ball handlers, and that's freeing him up because he's leading the league in fast break points. So I think they got enough offense to like run some team into the ground. Um, Houston is not the defensive team it once was, and Alperen Sengun is like kind of. I can see Ime Udoka kind of becoming a little irritated with that. Sengun is not exactly. I mean, not saying he's a cone on defense, but I mean he's not really giving you much defense. And Houston's point guard play is shaky at best. Um, I think losing Dylan Brooks kind of took some part of identity away from them. I mean, I think they were a much better defensive team when they had Dylan Brooks. Kevin Durant is a scorer that you need. When you need a bucket, he can get you a bucket, but sometimes they need a little more than a bucket. And I mean, I think he and Amen Thompson kind of clash a little bit. I mean, as far as their games, I mean, I think like they definitely need a point guard. They need a real playmaker that can see the floor and distribute the ball between them because you know, Amen Thompson can't be the primary ball handler. Kevin Durant can't be the primary ball handler. They need somebody to distribute it evenly between them. This kind of reminds me of Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown when they had Marcus Smart. And once they moved Smart and got Drew Holiday, they just look 10 times better. So right now, I mean, without a point guard to kind of bring them together, they don't quite mesh. And I think I mean, it's definitely being exposed that they need a point guard. A lot of people are questioning the Spurs and their lack of experience and how far they can really make a run this year. And like I said, it is a baby step league. Um, However, they got a player that can make some big steps real fast. I mean, with a 7'6" stride, 7'4", 7'6". I mean, like Wimby is one of those generational athletes, so he can possibly win a playoff series in his first one. I don't see them going home in the first round. I can definitely see him making it to the second round. Can he go to a conference finals in his rookie year? That's kind of interesting, though. That's definitely an interesting question. I mean, and I kind of denounce the whole idea that they don't have the experience a little bit, just a little bit of kickback. I mean, I know they got a bunch of young players, but you still have, Harrison Barnes, who's won an NBA championship with the Warriors, and you have him and De'Aaron Fox, who both went to the Kings and took the Warriors to Game 7 a couple years ago in the playoffs as well. I'm not saying that's like a ton of experience, but at the same time, you do have some guys in the locker room. You have a veteran. You have at least two veterans in the locker room right now who can corral the team and rally them up, rally the troops. Especially with De'Aaron Fox, he's a I mean, he can be a closer for them. I don't think we've even seen the best of De'Aaron Fox as a Spur. I think if you need him in a half court, he's still shifty, he's still very fast, still, hard to stay in front of. I think De'Aaron Fox can close some games for San Antonio in the playoffs. While everybody's worried about what Wemby can do, I think De'Aaron Fox has enough veteran experience. He was on a Sacramento team where, they didn't have much defense at all, then still very young, wasn't ready for the moment either, and they didn't get better. And he's in a much better situation with the Spurs. So while everybody's kind of worried about, what Wemby and the other young players are not going to be able to do, they have a guy that you can actually give the ball to. Like I said, we have not seen the best of De'Aaron Fox since he's been in San Antonio, and I think that's yet to come when it comes to the playoffs. But yeah, OKC is still OKC. I mean, they kind of had health issues up and down the season. That's kind of like the trouble of coming to run it back. But SGA's having a great season, so I'm not too much worried about what OKC does. And speaking of SGA, um, MVP race, the MVP ladder. Last I checked, SGA still number one on the ladder. The repeat, he had the streak of games scoring over 20 points that passed Wilt Chamberlain. Um, Check, still an elite rim protector. Jalen Williams has been in and out of the lineup this season, but at the same time, I think that OKC still gained the poise of a championship team. So, I'm not too, I mean, it's tough to repeat. You know what I mean? I think it is very tough to repeat. So, I mean, that remains to be seen. But I do think that Shea Gilgeous Alexander, he does have the type of poise and the type of game that can like maintain the flow. So, I mean, I still kind of look at OKC as a viable contender. And you see, as you and you see statistically, I'm looking at SGA. And, a lot of ads on Basketball Reference. But yeah, this season so far, yeah, 31.5 a game, shooting efficiently. A lot of people would like to attack him for and call him a foul merchant and everything, but he's playing both sides of the ball. As far as steals, one of the league leaders as usual, but 1.4 this year, 1.7 last year. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, SGA has, and on top of that, the OKC has been winning. Advanced Analytics still has them up there pretty high. Um, the MVP ladder is very tight as usual. A lot of people are, like I said, split different ways. SGA looks like the MVP. Look like he's leading the ladder right now. I seen Luca's stock rise up. Then I seen some people try to shoot it down, saying, "Hey, the Lakers are not a high enough seed to do it." Although Luca right now this season is just about averaging 33 points a game, 7.9 rebounds, 8.4 assists. He's actually averaging a lot of steals as well. So I mean, honestly, Luca does have a viable case. But if you go back to SGA, you look at the player efficiency rating, win shares 13.8. I mean, advanced analytics for SGA over is probably the edge right there. And then you also got, I seen Victor Wembanyama make his case for, you know, MVP. He's pretty much locked up the defensive player of the year case. I mean, statistically, he has great statistics: 24 points, 11 rebounds. He's one of the league shot blocker. He's leading the league in block shots right now. He's averaging 3 a game. So I mean, yeah, Wimby is definitely an MVP candidate. Although I couldn't put him over SGA as well, especially while OKC still has the best record in the league. Um, so I mean, to me, that's pretty much the top three players. You pretty much got SGA, you pretty much got Luca and Wimby, and a lot of people are still making a case that Nikola Jokic should still be in the MVP race. You know, the Nuggets are not ranked as high. The Nuggets as a team, you know, they're not high enough in the standings probably to be considered, but he's leading the league in rebounds and leading the league in assists. First player in NBA history to be leading the league in both if he finishes the season like that. And you look at his PER rating, it's ridiculous as well. His win shares is ridiculously high. So analytically and statistically, Jokic still has a very strong case. Um, I think for sentimental value, a lot of people want Jalen Brown to be the dark horse candidate for MVP. 28 points, 7 boards, 5 assists. Jalen Brown's been playing excellent ball. Um, the Celtics have been doing remarkably well without Jason Tatum. But it's tough though. Like I said, if you're not leading the league um, in anything statistically, it's tough, and you don't have a team high enough in the standings. Like it's remarkable what he's doing without a superstar player, but Boston has also been playing pretty good ball around Jalen Brown, and I think that's kind of and the same thing with the OKC. They're playing pretty good ball around SGA, but SGA statistically is putting up great numbers as usual, and they're at the best in the league. And a lot of that is SGA is the best player. So SGA is still kind of upholding the best player on the best team. Um, so it's like basically your 5 MVP candidates is SGA, top of the league, um, Wimby, defensive player of the year candidate, as well as MVP, because everybody's thinking about his impact. Luca, the way he's been putting up these scoring bursts and everything like that. I'm not sure if that's enough for the season. I think every last one of them has a flaw in their case, but they also have a strength in their case. And ultimately, I think it's a matter of which narrative sticks out the most, and it's going to be probably best player on the best team, which is why SGA is probably on pace to repeat. Yeah, all of the candidates is hooping. It's going to be a hard decision. Yeah, I mean, the last 4 or 5 years, the MVP has always been tough, and I mean, I don't think the MVP has ever been an easy pick either. I mean, it's very rarely. I mean, that's why we only had one unanimous MVP. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting race. Um, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the resolution of that. And another thing I found funny, I found great as well, is the rookie race, the rookie of the year race. Cooper Flag is the number one pick, of course, and I think that's typically who everybody kind of gravitates toward. And just for sake, I'm gonna pull this up. Yeah, Cooper is averaging 20 points, 6 assists, almost five. I mean, 6 rebounds, almost 5 assists. Um, yeah, he's having a great season, great first rookie season. But I think a lot of people are looking more at Charlotte Hornets guard or small forward Con Kneppel, who's averaging 19 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, and he is shooting the leather off the ball, man. 43% from three, sharpshooter. And of course, the Charlotte Hornets are fighting for a playoff spot. So, not saying that LaMelo Ball isn't out there doing a thing with Brandon Miller in him, but Con Kneppel is putting up great numbers, and the Hornets are looking a lot better than they were last year and the last couple seasons. So, Con Kneppel should also be looked at for Rookie of the Year consideration. I think it's pretty much a two-cart race as far as Cooper Flag and Con Kneppel at this point. But just to show, just in case there's any dark horse favorites, DJ Edgecombe, 16 points, 5 boards, 4 assists. Philadelphia 76ers were pretty much awful last season, and since he's been there, they've been competing for a playoff spot again. So they've been pretty much relevant since they added him. I'm not saying he's the sole contributor or the main contributor, but he's made enough contribution to get them to the playoffs. Really started off hot early in the season, and he's still figuring it out as it goes. But yeah, he's having a great rookie season as well. This rookie class is looking real good, and like I said, everybody knows about the hype around next year's draft class. And Derek Queen, another one, 11 boards, six rebounds, 3 assists. He's got a very good, versatile game for a big. He can put the ball on the floor, pass, got great vision. He's playing pretty well as well. New Orleans is not doing very well, but he's doing pretty good. And playing alongside Zion and everything like that. I'm not sure if they're the best fit, but he's showing a lot of talent. And they're not the best fit and not winning many games. Depending on who would probably take a chance on Zion, they'll probably move on from Zion to move forward with Derek Queen. So yeah, I mean this rookie, this MVP race is tight, and I think the rookie of the year race is starting to separate itself. But nevertheless, I'm impressed with the talent in these young players. Oh, also got to show another rookie before we go. Switch over. Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper with the Spurs coming off the bench. He's kind of reminding me of a young James Harden. Starting to figure it out, real shifty guard. Still working on his 3-point shooting, but he's like playing well behind De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle. He can figure. I think he's another guard. I think he's another guard in that San Antonio team. Once he figures it out, it's over. I mean, even if San Antonio doesn't win this year, Dylan Harper and his continuance to grow and emerge, yeah, along with that team they got together, yeah, I think San Antonio is going to be very dangerous, even more so next year. So even if they don't win it this year, it'll be tough next year. But yeah, I think that, like I said, it's very interesting in the NBA as far as you know, the rookie of the year race, the MVP race. Um, and then another point that came up, and I forgot to mention another MVP candidate who may not be an MVP candidate anymore, and it's Cade Cunningham. Like I said, from the collapsed lung that he suffered earlier a couple games ago, he's going to be out for an extended period of time, and he may miss the MVP race as well as the All NBA team because of the 65 game minimum. There's a lot of talk about the 65 game minimum being too much. You know, now players that have legitimate injuries and aren't just load managing. This was designed to keep players from load managing, but now it's kind of seemed to affect the player who we know was a load managing, who was giving it his all, playing MVP basketball, and he's now suffered a legit injury that's going to keep him out to where he doesn't meet the minimum. And then you have the other candidates that were also dangerously close to missing the minimum as well. So, there's a lot of just controversy about it, about how the effects of it working. Is it really helpful? Is it hurting more than anything else? And honestly, I've heard suggestions that we should just get rid of the 65 game minimum. We should bring it down to 60. Uh, you know, like nobody's played less than 58 games and won MVP in history. So I mean, do we really need it? And that's kind of the case I'm hearing. And the other side is like you should be able to play 65 games. And honestly, I'm kind of in the middle of it. I'm kind of in the middle because at the same time, it's like in context, Kay Cunningham should probably be all NBA first team. Um, Getting shorted like that, I think there should be exceptions, but at the same time, it's kind of like cut and dry. At the other end, I'm like, well, there's always next season. You know what I mean? Tough break. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but that's kind of the idea. These rules were put in place for a reason, and we can't just go back because it hurts one case. You know, there's a lot of players who had great seasons, and part of the context is that you played a good amount of games or you played a good amount of minutes, which is why you were able to produce the way you was able to produce. So I mean, I understand the logic that it's kind of it sucks when it comes to players that genuinely were giving it their all, but it was kind of put in place for a winner for a reason. Leave the minimum in cases like this when it's tight. A clear winner could break out the pack. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of consider the players that play the most games. At some point, not being able to play a lot of games is understandable, but then at the same time, the players that are able to make it through the season should be commendable. Um, in other news, you see Giannis and the Bucks are back and forth about trying to sit Giannis out. Giannis insists that he wants to play. I think the NBA Players Association is trying to call out the Bucks for tanking. This is an ugly. This is about to be an ugly divorce. Giannis and the Bucks should probably have called it quits a long time ago, and now it's rearing its ugly head like this to where Giannis, Giannis wants to play and wants to compete, and the Bucks are like, no, you're basically coming off a calf injury, and we have nothing to play for. Like they just let go of Cam Thomas, who they signed. They thought he was going to bring a spark off the bench, and they let him go in like I want to say 17 games. Yeah, I mean it's really just stretching out the drama really at this point. I mean it's coming drama filled, and you know at this point they just probably just need to go ahead and part ways. And I'm pretty sure it's going to happen in the off season. Like I said, I always kind of imagine it being around draft time, which makes the most sense. Um, where is the question? I see talks that Lakers. I don't think the Lakers are going to do it. I don't think the Bucks have. I don't think the Lakers have anything the Bucks would really want. I can't see, Austin Reeves. I think the idea of the Bucks trading Giannis was like they want the house for him, and honestly, they're gonna have to bend a little bit. Giannis is gonna have to bend a little bit. I mean, I think they're gonna have to look at both sides and say, hey, Giannis is gonna say he wants to go to these teams. Giannis wants to go to a big market. I can see LA is a big market, of course. I can see the Knicks is a big market. I can see Miami is a big market. The question is, which one of those teams have the most to give Milwaukee? And that's kind of the never-ending tale. And Giannis has to demand a trade. You can't just say, "Hey, I want to play." No, I want you to trade me. Okay. The Bucks are already kind of, and the Bucks also as well. The Bucks don't know where to go from here. They know that at their time with Giannis, they can't build anything around Giannis. But moving on from him means that they definitely can't build anything unless they get a great deal for Giannis. Otherwise they're going to be starting from scratch at the bottom of the league, tanking like everybody else, hoping to get the next star again. But this is the interesting dynamic that's playing out. And in other talks, that the board of governors has agreed to allow the NBA to shop for an owner for two new expansion teams to look into it. So Seattle Sonics look like they're be coming back. A team is going to come to Las Vegas. Looks like it's going to be 32 teams in the NBA. And like the questions of, is there going to be enough talent in the NBA? I think there's going to be enough talent in the NBA, and I think the draft classes and if teams go look for depth, I think there'll be enough draft classes, enough talent available. I think it's good for the NBA. The NBA is making a bunch of money at this point right now, so it's like big deals, big network deals. I think the NBA can definitely um, profit off this. I mean, the way these teams are selling, the rates that they're selling these teams at, yeah, they can definitely. I definitely see a team being interested, especially in those two, especially being interested in those two teams, those two markets. Those two markets right there would be great. You know what I mean? Like Seattle, they had a crazy fan base before they sold the team. And Las Vegas, big market as well. Yeah, I can definitely see a lot of interest in those two teams right there. But yeah, the NBA definitely picking up, like I said, towards the end of the season. Um, Looking forward to the playoffs, of course. Looking forward to see how the season ends. The awards that come along with it. Um, yeah, I think the NBA is still just going through a lot of different things right now, a lot of different changes, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how it grows and evolves and everything like that. But yeah, it's definitely looking interesting. Um, and last but not least for the night, how's everybody bracket look? Yeah, everybody's bracket. I imagine everybody's bracket is pretty much wrecked at this point, and that's quite all right though, because college basketball is meant to be unpredictable. But I will say that this is NIL, and NIL has kind of taken the whole Cinderella aspect out of everything. Although you do see teams that are not particularly blue blood teams, become viable teams though, like viable national title teams. Like I always one team I always kind of observed was um Houston. Like, Houston's become an elite college basketball team, and they're not a blue blood, but you see them in the tournament. I looked at them this weekend, and I seen the first game where they smacked Idaho 78-47. They smacked Texas A&M 88-57. They looked elite. I mean, they look like they're on a mission from last year. Um, Kingston Flemings is amazing. You know, you look at the rest of the team. Yeah, they look like they're on a mission, and they run into Illinois. Illinois is also playing well as well. They got a lot of size in Illinois. They had a big win against Penn, and then they also beat the brakes off of VCU. But yeah, VCU beat UNC, and I wasn't surprised about that though. I'm sure I'm sure brackets are busted. How's yours? Yeah, my final four prediction is still kind of in play because all my teams I predicted to be in the final four are still kind of in it. I kind of let me see. I had yeah, yeah, UConn still in it, Illinois still in it, Arizona, Michigan still in it. So my final four prediction is still up. But yeah, I took some L's this weekend, took some bruises. Some upsets that I thought was gonna happen didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like High Point, and I predicted a High Point upset. You know what I mean? Like I predicted High Point beating Wisconsin. Predicted I didn't predict Texas beating the BYU. I thought BYU was going to squeeze that one out, but I kind of was a little sketchy though. Even though AJ DeBansa is great, he's just one player. I thought that they would still be able to pull that out. And I was hoping Kennesaw State would beat Gonzaga. Me living in Georgia and everything, I wanted to see that upset, but yeah, Gonzaga went ahead and did that one. But yeah, I predicted Miami and Purdue. They went at it. Purdue won. Uh, Utah State beating Villanova. That was one that got me too. I mean, I figured it was going to be close, but yeah, I just picked Villanova by a hair, and they still lost. Arizona, yeah, they're still in. Like I said, at my had them going to the Final Four. Um, Duke still managed to stay on top. Managed to make it out. They're running into St. John's this weekend. That might be the upset though. I think St. John's might get Duke. TCU beating Ohio State. I knew that was going to happen. Um, Kansas losing to St. John's. I predicted that one. Yeah, I predicted that upset. I knew that. Nothing against Kansas, but Kansas, after the first weekend, I didn't see him going. After the first round, I didn't see him going very far. I know Darren Peterson's extremely talented, but Kansas has been up and down all year. I think Bill Self is kind of is a great coach, but I think he's kind of at the end of his run with Kansas. Um, I knew Rick Pitino. It's hard to bet against Rick Pitino, one of the best coaches ever. Also had Tom Izzo making it to this point with Michigan State as well. I knew they was going to be they was going to beat Louisville. Like I said, Rick Pitino, Tom Izzo, two great coaches in that region. Midwest though, yeah. Oh man, St. Louis beat the brakes off Georgia. Georgia got the brakes beat off them. And I was like, I was going to give it a close game. I had St. Louis winning, but I was going to give Georgia like a fighting chance, but I didn't know they was going to get whacked like that. Thank goodness I didn't have to do a point spread. But Texas Tech, I knew they was going to beat Akron, but Alabama beat Hofstra. A lot of people had Alabama upset alert. Alabama came out there and responded well, but then they ran into Texas, and then they beat down on Texas Tech. I thought Texas Tech was going to handle Alabama. I'm surprised Alabama made it to the Sweet 16. That's impressive. I didn't have them going that far. Yeah, so they busted my bracket right there. Tennessee running against Iowa. Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, I figured Tennessee would end up against Iowa State, but yeah, it's a very interesting bracket. Like I said, the Cinderella aspect is almost pretty much dead with NIL. I mean, like I said, a lot of these good players are just spreading out to some of these other schools, trying out, like I said, trying out these other schools like the Iowa, Iowa States and the Houston's and different teams like that, teams that are not even blue blood, but like Illinois coming back, everything like that, resurgence. So it's definitely interesting in that one. I'm also kind of watching to see which freshman is going to, which one of these great freshmen that's going to come in and, make a big splash in the big tournament. And so far, right now, my guess came true. Darius Acuff. Darius Acuff, he's a top 5 pick to me. I don't know if he's going to get in that top 3. Point guards, kind of hard for point guards to make it in the draft where there's a lot of good wings or some sort of big in there. It's kind of hard for a point guard to get drafted higher than top 3. But he's definitely big time. His stock might go up to top 3 though. Depending on as far as Boozer, Cameron Boozer, Cam Boozer is a solid prospect, very high IQ, good player. But I think a lot of teams are kind of looking at somebody who moves the needle a little bit more, like an AJ DeBansa, a more explosive player, Darren Peterson. I'm feeling like I felt like Cam Boozer was like a top 3 pick all throughout the season, but as I watch him in the tournament, I can see him kind of fall into maybe top 5. He's a solid player. He's still a good player, but I think teams are going to be looking for more a dynamic player and like a Darius Acuff or a Darren Peterson or AJ DeBansa, even Caleb Wilson. You know, Caleb Wilson, who was hurt for North Carolina, we couldn't see him in the tournament, but he's very explosive, very athletic. You know, mind you, these guys are one and done, so we haven't even seen them at their athletic peak yet. 19 years old. When they get to that point when that athleticism really gets to its peak, that's when you're going to see why they drafted these young players so high for. I think Cam Boozer has a good bit of he has a solid, he has a solid game. He can shoot. He can put the ball on the floor. He can do a lot of different things. I think he'll be very good in the NBA. But I also feel like, you know, teams are going to be looking more so at players that have a little more explosion to their game, a little bit more of a needle mover. Because I think this draft, I'm not sure if this draft really has once in a generation type players, but they have a really good volume of deep players. You know what I mean? They got a really good volume of deep players. Um, who I got for Arkansas and Arizona? I'm gonna have to go with Arizona. I got Arizona in the Final Four. I got them meeting Michigan, and whoever wins between Michigan and Arizona, I got them winning the national title. I just, I think that's kind of where it stops for Darius Acuff. I think he's going to put on an amazing performance. Like I think he's going to make it really tough. I think he's going to make it really suspenseful. But I think Arizona is just too much depth, too much size. I think they're going to control the boards. Like I said, they're going to run into Michigan, and I feel like the winner of that is going to end up winning the national title. Those two teams are just too big, too physical. I think they end up going to, running up. They're going to end up running the table between those two. Whoever one comes out of that is winning. And I mean, that's, you know, Michigan's got a lot of size. Michigan got a lot of size. Um, Lundenberg, they was good comparing him to LeBron, which I thought was crazy, but he did make a really big athletic play. But that's just part of the size they got, and he's like playing the wing for them. 6'9" wing in college is pretty. That you got some 7-footers already there. They got yeah. I think Arizona and Michigan, whoever wins that, pretty much taking the natty home. Um, NIL is kind of, like I said, take away the Cinderella aspect. It's pretty much the powerhouses and the blue bloods at this point. But yeah, that's it for tonight, man. I'll see you all Saturday. I appreciate you all jumping on the live. Um, you can find me at 10 o'clock Saturday. I'll send out the postings and notifications, all that good stuff. Check out the page and see the posts and polls I put up and everything like that. Like I said, subscribe, like, comment, share, tell a friend. Appreciate you all. Appreciate the support. And I'll see you all then. Until then, have a great night. Have a great rest of the week. Left Fresh Podcast signing out.